Again, my name is Terry Moe. I'm a Lutheran pastor on call from the Oregon Synod, and my work now is with the Industrial Areas Foundation Northwest as a teacher and an organizer. I also work with several Lutheran congregations in North and Northeast and Southeast Portland. I used to be the pastor here, so I know the place pretty well. It's nice and warm in here, huh? So, we're continuing on, in case you didn't notice, on the no of the yes, no, yes paradigm. We're drilling down into the capitalism as a captivity system. And we wanted to ground that in scripture and other kinds of traditions, and we're going to spend the rest of the evening basically on the no part, the captivity system that capitalism presents. We're going to dig down a little bit deeper, and the image that Solveig and I came up with is we want to try to unveil some of the mystery of the systems that hold us in captivity. And hopefully you've read Dick Harmon's paper, and Dick is here, so after our presentation and break, we'll have a chance to mix it up with Dick in conversation. But for now, we want to do some unveiling, some looking behind the curtain to see how appearances aren't always reflective of deeper reality. So we want to peel the onion and get a little bit deeper. Okay, are you with me? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the first, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Aw, wouldn't it be nice to just kind of watch that movie again, a children's movie, first published in 1900. So, the Wizard of Oz, here's the wizard in the, what's this called, the Emerald Palace, or the Emerald City, and Dorothy, who's from? Kansas. Yeah. Anybody here from Kansas? Yeah. Okay. The Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. So unveiling. The wizard. What happens at the end?
He's just a man.
It's just a little guy, you know, with a big voice, right? With an amplified voice.
Right.
So we could say that the wizard represents the financial system. In fact, few scholars believe that The Wizard of Oz was written as a parody or as an allegory describing the circumstances in the year previous to 1900. Dorothy, your average American, all-American girl from Kansas, where some of the worst droughts and economic blight were happening around the time that this was written. The Scarecrow represents the farmers who were struggling with the drought and their farms. And there was a great movement in the 1890s called the Populist Movement that connected these constituents together in a political party. The Tin Man represents the industrial workers from the cities. So imagine a coalition of farmers, all-American people, and industrial workers together in a political party. The Lion? Anybody know? Churches? You could hope. I wish. William Jennings Bryan. Name sound familiar? Yeah. Presidential candidate in 1896 and 1900. Unsuccessful both times, but ran on the populist agenda. One of the planks had to do with gold and silver. So, Wizard of Oz. What does OZ stand for as an abbreviation? Ounce. Yeah, so ounce of silver, ounce of gold. So we could say, you know, behind this Wizard of Oz is an unveiling of the financial system in the 19th century. Biblically speaking, Revelation, the book of Revelation, how many have read the book of Revelation, last book in the Bible? Often a kind of confusing book, kind of a scary book sometimes. But basically, revelation, the Greek word apocalypse, means unveiling. It means showing forth. It means letting out what is hidden. So in terms of empire, Rome and Babylon. The Roman Empire called the whore of Babylon. And every time the word Babylon is used, it's referring to the present economic exploitation, captivity of the Roman Empire. In terms of power, what's the big image in Revelation in terms of power? Beasts, dragons, devouring people. So power as violent force, fire and blood. But there's also in the book of Revelation a great deal of hope. Hope in God, in the spiritual realm, and importantly, in the book of Revelation, heaven is not a sequential temporal area. It's the invisible presence in the world of a new dimension. It's the invisible dimension of God's power in history at the present moment, not after history's over and we go to heaven. So when we read Revelation about heaven, it's heaven come to earth, the dimension of God and spirituality. And then in terms of organizing, now we're going to get to Anna's point. 7 little congregations. 7 little congregations in Asia Minor that are called forth by John of Patmos to be the presence of hope and organizing in the presence of empire and power. So that was a couple of unveilings, and Solveig's going to lead us through a few more directly related to the readings. So we'll turn it over to Solveig.
Can we move these over there so we can still see them?
Sure. You want to grab those, Eric, and then we'll move these over. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, friends. Can you see that? Is that all right? Okay. Move around if you can. Just move around. Okay. So we can all see. So I just want to remind us why we're doing this. Why we are putting ourselves through trying to understand this thing called this capitalism system, right? Does anyone completely understand it? No, Dick, do not answer this. Does anyone completely understand it? Good. Good. So I'm not alone. So no, why? Why are we doing this? Okay, because as Dick said in his papers, the first step in creating alternatives to this greed-based organization, this greed-based system, is to name the system and how the system works. That's why we have to go into this know so deeply, right? Because if we're going to get anything that's different on the other side, we got to understand what we're up against and what we're in, right? Or else, guess what we'll do?
Make the same mistakes.
Recreate it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's what you do, right? If you don't understand it, that's why we're doing this. That's why we're struggling together to work this out. So, all right. So we're going to try to understand this captivity system that Dick wrote about, and we had some diagrams about that. But as Terry talked about, it doesn't present itself as being an open book, right? Like, here, come understand me, right? We don't get that, right? No, we get a couple of images. One, taking a lead from Terry, right? The all-powerful, omnipotent, omnipresent Oz. This is the system, right? And there's all these like smoke coming out the sides, and so you can't really see what's going on, right? And this, what does this say? I'm too complicated for all you peons. You can't, or ordinary people, you can't understand the system. So just go on and do your, just do your life, right? Leave the system to us, right? That's what this is, right?
Just go shopping.
What's that?
Just go shopping.
Just go shopping. There you go. There you go. Nice, right? There's also another image that the system presents, right? And that is,
Yeah, we can't see through you.
okay. So this is your friendly bank, right? Your friendly multinational bank. Here, look at this very friendly person at the door. I look how user-friendly and transparent we are as an institution, and we're here really to help you fulfill your dreams.
Nice smile.
I know, right? So this is what the system projects, right? This is what it would like to see. We could probably add lots of other projections about the system too. But here you go. Thanks. Feel free to display my artwork around.
Okay. So
here it is, right? This is the chart that we looked at in Dick's paper, right? So we're not gonna go through all of this, right? But we're just gonna remind ourselves and one another about the best we got at this point is sort of laying it out and laying out the interconnections of all these various systems. And Dick's one of the main points about this is the intersectionality, if you will, and the cooperation and the organization of all these systems, and in that they all share both a corporate governance structure and ownership of the sales effort. And if you recall this part of the paper, this is all the ways that that these systems get into our families. And the language is highly agitational language of penetration of the consumption unit. That's real language that's used, right? And icky. Right? But that's us. That's me, that's you, that's my boys. That's my boys. K through 12 education. I don't even want to start with how that is owned and what they're learning and how they're learning it and what the resources they have. So there you go. So we interact with it. We're completely and entirely dependent on it in 1,000 ways. And we are in captivity to it. Okay. Quickly, Michael? Yeah.
Quickly is, with that image, if you think of the images that we looked at last week of the polis, this is the image, the last one, of the market sector penetrating everything and overlaying everything. This is breaking into that market sector. It's made up of money and energy and production and services, the internet or voice or media, and the military. Those all are the things that make up that big glob that was overriding everything in that last chart from last week. So just to make that connection.
Thanks, Michael. The other thing about this that was jarring to me was using this analogy of the body, the brain and the arm and the trunk and the voice. And of course, just for me, recalling Corinthians, right? We're all parts of the body, right? The body has many members, and we're all parts of it, right? It's like, oh, ick.
Is there time for a quick question?
In just a sec. I'm just going to go through a few more things, and then Yep. So there's all these systems, right? So one of those is the money system. And so this is that little green circle there, that's all of this, right? So it's not simple, it is complicated, but we can still understand it, right? We can still seek to understand it. So there's all these pieces, compound interest, corporate governance, derivatives, I'm still trying to get derivatives, fractional reserve, all these different pieces. So then peeling back this layer. So here's one thing, compound interest, right? So this is the hockey stick. This is where things just grow exponentially, right? Or the analogy of Tevin East, the drop of water, right? The drop of water 1 minute, and then in 40 minutes, you got a foot of water, and then you're drowning 5 minutes later, right? That's the impact of compound interest. There's a sheet that we haven't used yet in this class, but it's this chart, basically, of, you see the growth curves on every single one of these. These are all like carbon dioxide emissions, population, damming of rivers, water use, urban population, fertilizer consumption, right? It goes on and on and on and on and on. It's the same movement. And I think what Dick is putting out is that there's a driver behind all that. And it's this particular driver of compound interest. And then we could go on to the fractional reserve piece. We could go on to all of them, but I just did a couple of them for right now, where $1,000 goes into a bank, the bank splits it up, keeps 100. They still got that 1,000 that needs to go to this person, right? It's theirs, it's yours, right? But that $900 gets loaned out, right? So all of a sudden now, $1,000 equals $1,900, right? And then plus interest comes back, so that's pretty sweet. Except where does that money come from? And you've got the Tevin East dance of interest, debt, interest, debt, interest, debt, interest, debt. So there you go. Could we have the captivity system back up?
Where to go? The big one?
Yeah, the big one.
Next to this one, yeah.
So we're trying to grab this with our heads, right? Trying to get this with our heads, and we also got to get real and into our lives. So yes, got it. So I'm just going to invite 2 points of reflection for this piece, and then we're going to have more time. So we had talked a couple weeks ago about the pressures on our families, right? We named some of those pressures. So the big question for us is, how does this system create these pressures? And let's just name a few. What are some of the pressures that we experience literally in our lives that come directly from this system?
You want us to shout them out?
Yes, just a few.
There's some pressure to consume more.
Pressure to consume more, right?
More taxes. Isolation.
Draft registration.
What's that?
Draft registration.
Oh,
Draft.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Their utilities.
Yeah. Debt.
That.
All its forms, a ton of different forms, right?
Uh-huh.
Debt.
Pressure to work more hours.
In order to deal with the debt.
Yeah. So that's just like the big time, right?
Yeah, it's big time.
Who has
issue.
not said, oh, I don't have time, there's just no time. Who has not said that in this room? Okay, I rest my case.
Declining health.
What's that?
Declining health.
declining health.
Stress.
Physical
health. Stress.
All the
All right.
toxins that are built up that we don't even know about.
Entertainment that's designed to be addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just addictions in general.
Marketing to children.
Yep.
Addictive food.
Another behavior.
All right. Okay, I think you get the point. Right? The intimate relationship here, right? The other piece, the other question is, we also looked at
Just one other thing, in addition to the addictive food, there's this whole addictive media thing.
addictive media thing.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, you get hooked at all this media, you get hooked into television shows, you get hooked into reality TV, you get hooked into Facebook, you get hooked into,
Yep. Yep.
it's just-
That's the whole point. And why? Because they have to make a profit. And they have to not just make a profit, maximum profit. Maximum profit. Maximum profit. That's the hockey stick, right? That's the tool to get that. So we also looked at this diagram last week, right? This was the isolated, the disorganized, unmediating non-community, as opposed to the organized, mediating community, right? So what is the relationship between this and this? How does this create this? This is a little bit harder, right?
Well, if I don't keep it, or if I don't get it, somebody else will, and then they'll have more than I do, or be better than I do, or
So a competition,
the
a
competition,
culture of competition.
the scarcity, the
Oh,
scarcity.
scarcity. Somebody said isolation,
Isolation.
right? So if we're isolated and if we are being made to be isolated, then when we come to church or come to any other place that's supposed to be a community, we're losing our ability, right? We're not practiced. Culture does not support deep relationships, right? So we're not practiced of that.
All of
assumption that we need to be
all of those
independent.
addictions are isolated. Every single one of them. The food addictions, the media, especially the media addictions, are very, very isolated.
And stress
Substance addictions, all of them.
and stress and fear are toxic to relationships.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're taught that we need to be independent.
Ah, right,
American
right.
individualism.
Pull yourselves up.
Yeah, by the bootstraps.
That's another addiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one other aspect to marketing. We think of scarcity, but we also have the perception that there is a lot of everything and that there's not just one of something. So we've been marketed to, and that there are a million Coke bottles that look exactly alike. There are endless numbers of shoes that look exactly alike. There are endless numbers of cereals that wouldn't you be shocked if you went to the grocery store and that cereal you buy wasn't there? Or, there's this sort of idea that if there's one for each, we don't need each other.
Right. We don't need each other.
No, you don't need each other because you don't need anything from anybody else. You have your own pen, you have your own cup, you have your own car, you have your own house,
Yes.
you have your own weed eater.
Yeah. So again, just think about what are the values and the stories that we talk about in our faith community, right? They're kind of the opposite of all this, and yet this is what we bring. This is what we bring. So no wonder we struggle. No wonder there's stress. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to have more conversation about this. So stir up your questions, write them down, whatever.
Can I just make a really quick announcement that's very relevant to what we're talking about?
Tell me what it is during the break, and then I'll let you know. Just last time we had multiple flourishing announcements.